Hey, 4C divers! It is Wednesday. It is April 14th, 2021, and you are listening to us on Facebook Live. Hey guys, how's it going? I hope everybody's having a great year so far. I know there's been a lot of great diving, some great conditions this week. So if you want to get out on a boat and go diving, give us a call. If you are listening in, please give us a hello and tell us where you're listening in from. Are you here in Florida? Are you outside of Florida? Are you outside the country? We want to know. Standing next to me, or sitting next to me here, is our instructor, James Weber.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We'll do an introduction a little bit more in just a second, but we want to check in and make sure everybody is doing good. Give us a thumbs up if you like the presentation, a heart emoji, or a smiley face. We love seeing that stuff.
You love seeing that stuff.
And also, if you are listening in and you want to get in on our raffle tonight, we are going to be raffling off the SDI Rec Diver e-learning kit. So if you want to get in on that raffle before 6:45, go to www.force-e.com and scroll to the event tab, find tonight's presentation, and register on the Eventbrite. And make sure you put that email address so that we can get you hooked up, or whoever is.
14 minutes to do it. Hurry up.
Oh boy. So another thing tonight, we want to make sure that you guys know that we have Rec Month. April is our Rec Month, and every April we like to bring in our best of the best volunteer presentation speakers, right?
Voluntold.
And we had one scheduled. It was about sinking wrecks. Unfortunately, that guest presenter was not able to join us tonight. So I got James Weber here, who is an expert on wreck diving, and he's going to give you a lot of great information tonight and give you some cool photos of wrecks that he's dove on and some cool stories. So another thing, just make sure, go to www.force-e.com. You're going to see on that main homepage, you're going to see our Rec Month banner. Click on that, and it has some extra little goodies and information about getting certified, other Facebook Lives that we've done about wrecks, and also about the wreck gear that we have in the store, stuff that you'll need to make wreck dives. And if you spend $100 online, you can get the really cool brand new Rec Diver t-shirt that 4C came out with. So you got to go online.
It's my t-shirt.
Oh, who thinks that James needs a t-shirt? Everybody, if you think he needs a t-shirt, answer in the comment section with a thumbs up emoji, and I'll see if I can get him one.
Come on, I want a t-shirt.
All right, so James, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're an expert about wrecks.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but I've been diving since 1977. From New York, been down in Florida about 20 years now. So all of wreck diving that we started doing was up in New York. So, you know, when we were doing it, there were no real procedures. The equipment was, you know, put together, recreational stuff like that. So the things that you see together now, you know, came from the age when we were doing it up there. So I have a lot of experience on wreck. So you'll see some cool stuff tonight. So I'm going to show you some cool stuff.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in our PowerPoint presentation here, and we will start. All right, so James, can we get a brief history of the wrecks that we have here in South Florida?
Florida's got a ton of wrecks. Florida has been, well, as you know, the oldest city in the state of Florida is where? You know where it is?
I have no idea.
St. Augustine.
Really?
That's the oldest city actually in the United States.
Oh.
So, you know, ships have been coming here, you know, we know at least in the 1400s, but, you know, now there's evidence of, you know, people coming over in the 1200s, the 1300s. So there's stuff all over the place. The difference in Florida is that, you know, wood wrecks rarely will survive. What will survive is any of the metal pieces from it. So we don't have some real good examples of wooden wrecks, but we have great examples of metal wrecks. The metal wrecks will last for a while. And we've got wrecks up and down the coast. We've got water wrecks. We've got, you know, artificial reefs. We've got, you know, real wrecks. We've got, you name it, we've got it.
So what is the definition of a natural wreck versus an artificial reef?
So an artificial reef is it's a piece of everyday life that gets sunk on purpose. So it's cleaned, it's set up for fishing, it's set up for diving. So holes are cut into it. Places that divers could get stuck in are welded shut. And you know, it doesn't even have to be a wreck per se. There's cars there that are you know, official wrecks, right? There's culverts from bridges and stuff like that. So those can be, you know, an artificial reef. A natural wreck is when somebody screws something up, right? You know, that example could be for everybody. So we have those around Florida as well, because think about the conditions we have here. We have the Gulf Stream. You know, we're officially in the Bermuda Triangle, and we have hurricanes. So there's stuff that goes down all the time.
All right. So quickly, the oldest Broward County wreck is the Copenhagen. It sank in the 1900s, and it's actually an archaeological preserve. And this was a 19th century British cargo steamer. It struck a reef in about 25 feet of water, and it's in the Lauderdale by the Sea area. So it left Philadelphia, and it was coming to Cuba to carry a bunch of black coal. And so when it hit the reef, it's a natural wreck. And that actually had a bunch of stuff on it, artifacts, and now it's an archaeological preserve, so you cannot remove anything. So if you do dive this, because this is a great diveable site, especially for you know, beginner divers. Kids love diving this wreck because not only, as you see in the picture here, is this really cool plaque that you can go and see.
I think apparently we need a new IT department.
Hold on, let's see. Okay, we are back. Can everybody hear us? Oh my gosh. Are you guys there? So sorry about the technical difficulties. Not sure what's going on. Trying to figure out. Here we go. Okay, we're back online. Sorry, everybody, about that. Hopefully you got to hear what we said about the Broward wrecks. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and the oldest wreck in Palm Beach County, the Amaryllis, sank in 1968. This was a cargo ship that ran aground at Singer Island, and it was during Hurricane Betsy. After several salvage attempts, the ship was abandoned and became a tourist attraction. So eventually the Army Corps of Engineers succeeded in towing the ship 3/4 of a mile out to sea, where she was shuttled as a artificial reef. So again, it was a natural wreck at first, but then they pushed it out so that it could become an area where we could do some diving and fishing on.
We actually did, what was that TV show we did?
We did,
The
it was
Ultimate
Diver Challenge.
Right? Do you remember that wreck?
Oh,
we
yeah.
went down and I hid stuff all over the wreck, and it was like an Easter egg hunt on the wreck.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, you can find these on YouTube. The Ultimate Diver Challenge. There was a 4C team, and we all competed.
And you should have won.
I should have won.
I think you should have won. Yeah.
So if you're looking for those, that was quite a few years ago. Maybe I'll add it to our little chat in the comment section. All right, so the newest Palm Beach wreck is the Anna Cecilia. She sank in 2016. She is a artificial reef. She's a cargo vessel. She sits in about 85 feet of water. And what's so cool about this wreck is that she is one of the few wrecks in the Palm Beach County that during the Goliath grouper season.
Oh yeah, it's loaded.
Loaded with Goliath groupers. You can find them at the bow. You can find them inside. You can find them at the stern. You can find them out in the sand. I mean, they hang out at this wreck, and it's part of a chain of wrecks. It's the first one in the series of what is called the Corridor Wreck Trek. And they all used to hang out at the Mitzvah, which is a older wreck. Yeah. But once they put this wreck down,
they're all upgraded.
Yeah, they're like, this is a new one. We like it. This is a great new wreck. So if you're looking, Goliath grouper season starts in around August and
yeah.
it goes through October. So it's a really fun wreck.
You know, Nicole, on this wreck, we the last season we went down with the rebreathers and we just sat at the bow, and we had the Goliath groupers as close, you know, as you, and I had the GoPro and I'm just filming us and then Goliath groupers. It was magical because it was just they just hung out with you. They didn't care. They could care less that we were there.
Yep.
So.
All right, so making a wreck dive plan. So you always want to select the dive site. So James, what is selecting a recreational dive site and a technical dive site entail?
So there's a couple different reasons why you would want to select one over the other. So a recreational wreck has a couple different things. It's generally, it's going to be less than 130 feet deep, right? Or, you know, the way the standards read is that you have your length down, your depth down, and then into the ship can't be more than 130 feet from the exit. So when they put down wrecks, what they'll do is they'll frequently cut out holes throughout the wreck. So anywhere you are, you know, generally in the top of the wreck, you are within those standards for that, right? That's a recreational wreck. You can still dive at technical, right? Technical would exceed the 130 feet limit, but it would also entail a lot more gear, right? Your dive equipment has to be different. You have to have redundancies and stuff like that that you wouldn't really necessarily need with a recreational version of it, right? Technical wrecks could be, you know, past 130, 200, 300, stuff like that. We have wrecks like that here. There's a lot of good ones. Some of my favorite one is actually the Cormo, which is like right outside the inlet. It's at about 230, and it's in a rip and current, and the visibility is just phenomenal. Every time I've ever gone, except for once, right, it was really, really good. So, and it's a cool wreck to see.
All right, so selecting your gas for a wreck dive, recreational versus technical.
So recreational, basically to extend your bottom time, you're going to pick the best mix for your nitrox mix. Now, there's a couple different ways to do it. Since you really don't know what you're going to see on the wreck, you can pick your gases, let's say the deepest depth. So let's say I want to do the Spiegel Grove per se, right? The Spiegel Grove, I'd want to go, let's say I want to go to the props. If I want to go to the props, they're at about 145-ish, right? So I would have to pick a mix for that. The problem with that is that it's going to limit you on the upper decks. The gas isn't going to be as, as efficient. So it's going to limit your bottom time. What you can do is you can actually do gas switches, right? Recreational diving teaches gas switches, right? Multi-level dives, stuff like that. So you can do it recreationally. You have a small bottle of something for one depth, and then you can switch to another one. Technical gas would be completely different, right? You can do wrecks on open circuit, or you can do wrecks on closed circuit, and there's benefits and liabilities to each. But you can do them that way. And what's really cool about that is, if you're doing technical diving on wrecks, you're going to exceed the depth limit. You're going to exceed the penetration limits. You're going to exceed, your no decompression limits. So you really get to see parts of the wreck that really nobody really sees, right? So it's pretty neat to look at it from both angles.
Awesome. All right, so let's go into considerations in planning for dives on wrecks. What are some of the things we should consider? Well,
it says always listen to the dive briefing, right? There's a reason they're giving you a briefing. They're telling you where to see cool stuff. I remember I've gone to truck a few times, and, those guys dive those wrecks every single day. They know where all the cool stuff is. So if you're smart enough, you're going to listen to the briefing because they're going to give you a heads up. You'll see a ton more stuff than you would if you just went down and explored it. Now, also, it's fun to just go explore it on your own. But, if you give it little hints and tips of where to look, you really get to see some cool stuff, right? Couple different ways they dive wrecks in South Florida, right? So we can do what's called, a hot drop. Hot drop is the boat drops you and you drift into it. Like if you were parachuting onto a drop zone, right? So you hop in and you drift down into the wreck, right? The second one is they tie off to the wreck and you go on up and down that line. There's benefits to each one, right? So going up and down the line, you're guaranteed to hit the wreck. But what else do we have in South Florida that's pretty wicked around here?
Lots of current.
Lots of current, right? So if you're going up and down a line, you're kind of like a flag on a flagpole. And it could be, everybody's doing a safety stop and you get 10 people at 15 feet, it gets a little, outdated. For hot dropping, right, you have to be able to get down quickly, right? So you have to be able to equalize. You have to be comfortable with, hopping in and going right down. What's cool about hot dropping is you're not going up and down a line, so you drift into the wreck, and when you're done, you leave the wreck and you drift upwards. So there's really no feeling of movement in the current, right? So you're not fighting the current. It's a lot more comfortable. For the boats, it's a little more difficult with a hot drop because when everybody leaves the wreck, they may not all leave the wreck at the same time. So you get a string of divers out after the wreck. For a line, they all come up and down the line. So it's a little easier for the boat.
Going back to the dive briefing, another thing to consider is they're not going to just tell you about the cool things that they're seeing, but they're also going to tell you things like what the deck depth is, what the sand depth is. They're going to give you the orientation of the wreck. Is it facing east, west, north, south? Is this a chain of wrecks? So are you going to be able to drift on a wreck and then follow your compass and get to another one? We've got a lot of these really cool different configurations that we can consider. So listening to a dive briefing is super key. And they're going to also let you know what the procedures are about making sure that you hit that wreck. Now, if we have the books here really quick.
You know what I wish we had? We brought up those slates that shows the wreck.
But those are in there too.
Are they?
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So we have the Reef Smart Guides. So I'm actually going to make it so we can see this a little bit better. All right. So this one is Fort Lauderdale, and this one is the Palm Beach, Reef Smart Guides. And they make individual slated cards that have each of the wrecks down here in this area, and they look like this, and they're waterproof, so you could take it down on a dive if you want to. But the benefit of getting these books is that it has multiple dive locations, and a lot of this is all wrecks, and you can see all the different types of wrecks that we have here in the South Florida area. And it's going to give you some detailed information, some cool 3D information. And what's cool about me bringing this up, there's that Amaryllis that we talked about. The guys who make these, they're going to do a Facebook Live later in the month to tell you exactly how they map a wreck and a reef and how they get these cool images. So stay tuned for that Facebook Live.
Yeah, I wish I would have came up with that idea.
All right, so stick with your buddy.
Yeah, that's always a good idea, right? Your buddy is your backup brain, right? Especially in wrecks, because if you're by yourself, you can make a poor decision, and your buddy's not there to say, "Hey, we shouldn't do that," right? So it's a good idea to always stick with a buddy, right? Mm-hmm. Have an emergency action plan, right? You actually should have several plans, right? Have the plan that you want to do, have a backup plan, and have another backup plan, right? Because especially if you're technical diving. You want to be fully sufficient, what's the word I'm thinking about?
Efficient.
No. You're fully prepared for any emergency that would come across your way, right? Self-sufficient. That's the word I'm thinking of. Yeah. New brain today. That's why I need a buddy. Right? See, you're my buddy today. So yeah, always have a good plan and always have a backup plan, right? Be comfortable with your equipment, right? Wreck diving equipment is some different stuff, right? So we have, let's say, reels, right? Let's go back. Oh, so you can do it that way. So you have reels. So there's a couple different ways that you can go into wrecks, right? If it's wrecks where they're fully open, you really don't need a reel, right? Because you can always see daylight. You can always find your way out. You're going to use these when you go into spots where that may not be the case, right? So if I'm going in the engine room at the Spiegel Grove and I don't know where I'm going, I'll run a reel, right? Lights are very important. The technology for lights has come ages, right? When I first started diving, we had lights and they were literally this big, right? And it was like the flashlight on your phone. That's how much light it gave you. It was garbage, right? We got into LED lights. We had big canister LED lights with a handset. Now we have lights like, this big blue that outshines anything that I've ever had in the past, right? And they actually make it so you can put it on your wrist like this. So this is how I do it, right? The light goes in here, goes on my wrist, right? So I'm not holding anything, and I can shine wherever I want. So that's a pretty cool thing that, you know, I always use for wrecks because it frees up my hands to, you know, run wheels and do other stuff. Clips. So clips can be, you know, helpful and not helpful. This is an example of a clip. So I call this a single dog, right? And they make double dogs where it's you know, a gated clip on both sides, right? What's good about this clip versus something like this, right? Tell me why this is bad.
The spring can break and then it's not a clip anymore?
No, this is actually known as a suicide one, right? So I'll show you why. So let's say, what do we have inside wrecks? You have wires, stuff like that, right? So hold the wire like this. So as a suicide clip, you're swimming along and you catch a wire and it clips in, and now you're clipped in and you don't know why you're clipped in. So anytime you're diving around wrecks or lines or something like that, try to avoid clips like this, called suicide clips, right? Always go with a gate clip like this, because a gate clip is not going to catch by itself, right? So little tips and tricks like that.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Did you guys know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's why taking a class is a good idea.
That's right.
Right? Absolutely.
This guy.
That why you like slates. So
I know. I
like slates for different things, right? So slates can be helpful for a lot of things. If I'm technical diving, slates are good because I can write my dive plan on it, right? I can write, you know, what I teach for, you know, technical rec and stuff like that is we use duct tape, and I'll put my stops and everything on like that. So we hide them, and these actually go on your wrist like this, so they're out of the way. I gotta remember where the camera's at, right? So there's ways to do stuff like that. So they're also good for me communicating, right? And then, you know, you have different signals for wreck diving and everything else. So,
so one of your buddies here, Artie.
Linda, I see Linda.
Yeah, but Artie said drop strobes when entering a wreck, and when you plan to exit the same way you enter.
Artie is one of those old school guys, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we used to do, right? We used to drop strobes along the wreck, and what it would do, it would be like a breadcrumb trail back to the anchor line, right?
Yep. What about that spare cylinder that I see over here?
So this is a spare cylinder, right? Something like that. So anytime you're in an overhead environment, you want to have, you know, stuff for backup, right? In the unlikely event that you run out of gas, you don't have a direct ascent to the surface. You need some sort of way to, you know, be able to breathe. So this is a good thing to have for stuff like that.
Okay. All right. So hand signals. What type of hand signals?
Which hand signals do you want, Nicole? I got a few of them. Right?
Well, we want to see the ones that would particularly go with wreck diving.
So there's a lot of stuff that I teach, right? I teach open circuit technical, trimix, rebreather, stuff like that. So the signals may not be specific to the industry, but as long as everybody knows what you're talking about, I try and make my signals as literal as possible. So if I want, you know, I ask how much gas you have, right? So that would be one. If I ask you, did you switch your computer? I'll point to your computer and I'll say, switch, right? Stuff like that. So I try to make the signals as, you know, as idiot-proof as possible. You have stuff like this, that means turn around, turn the dive. So if we're in a wreck and we either run out of time, distance, line, stuff like that, or it's just getting a little too hairy for the students that I'm with, I'll turn the dive around. So
awesome. Okay. So hold on, let me go back here and get the big screen. There we go. All right. So what is there to see in a wreck?
There's tons of stuff to see. You know, if you like photography, you've got huge animals, right? You've got the Goliaths, you've got sharks, you've got everything. Everything hangs around the wreck because the wreck provides shelter to smaller animals, right? And that draws in bigger animals, right? It's substrate that corals can't attach to. So you're going to get sponges, corals, anemones, everything that will grow on a wreck, right? You want to try to avoid touching wrecks as much as possible because it's the animal's home, right? Every time that you bump into stuff on the wreck, you're destroying something, right? You're killing something. So your buoyancy has to be spot on. You know, I'm going to show you a really cool artifact. I don't know if anybody can guess what this is, right? I know what it looks like, ladies.
A paper towel.
Well, yeah, that too, I guess. Okay. So this was off a wreck. So this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I went diving on my birthday, and we did a wreck in the Gulf of Mexico called the Baja California. Now, the Baja California was a cargo ship, right? And it was torpedoed by a German U-boat and sunk, right? So the torpedo hit the boat, right? The boat exploded, caught on fire, sank, right? And on my birthday, I found that, right? So anybody know what that is? Anybody want to take a guess? Take a guess? What do you think?
Take a guess. Is it kind of medicine?
It is a kind of medicine, right? I wouldn't want to take it now, right? It shouldn't be colored like that. But this is actually morphine, right? So this was found in the wreck. So just the history of this, right? This survives the ship being torpedoed, the ship exploding, the ship on fire, the ship sinking, laying on the bottom for 70 years, and it's very, very fragile. And I come along and we dug this out of the wreck, this and a couple others. So it's stuff like that that you can also find on wrecks, right?
Now, really quick.
Yeah.
Are there limits to taking artifacts off certain wrecks, and is there other things that are fair game? How does that work?
There's two different thoughts on wrecks, right? One is you want to leave it for posterity, right? If you take everything, then the next person coming along doesn't see anything, right? The other one is the ocean's going to destroy it anyway, right? So there's two schools of thought, right? Generally, the training agencies say to leave stuff on the wrecks, right? You know, again, when we started diving, right? I started diving in the 70s. You know, we would go on these wrecks. You know, one of my favorite wrecks up in New York was the San Diego. The San Diego was it was a World War I armored cruiser that was supposedly sunk by a German mine, right? But I mean, we would pull off 3-inch shells, right? It was an armored cruiser, so the shells had a diameter of that, and they were about 36 inches long, right? You know, we were pulling up portholes, dishes, everything. You know, so some of the older wreck divers have a different view of some of the newer wreck divers, right? And I definitely can see both sides of it, right? There are laws in certain spots where you don't want to, you know, disturb the artifacts. But this wreck is actually, it's a digging wreck. So it's known for bottles and stuff like that. So they go there with the intent of whatever you find you take, right?
I had a question. When it comes to spearfishing on wrecks, here in South Florida, what is kind of the, I don't know, the not a law, but what is kind of like the behavior that the divers have when it comes to spearfishing on wrecks, and if there's other divers on the wreck that aren't spearfishing? Well,
remember the wreck. You know, we have a wreck out here called the Andy. The Andy's right outside the Palm Beach Inlet. It's about 180 to the sand, and there's amberjacks on that wreck that are literally as big as you, right? And you don't see that on the smaller wrecks. So a lot of people will go spearfishing on the wrecks. Generally, what they'll do is they'll run spearfishing trips to the wrecks. So they don't, you know, we don't really mix the two in terms of for stuff like that. Right? In other areas, you know, you can spear on wrecks because that's where the fish are. The fish like, you know, you look at the fishermen casting off lines into the sand, and I love to tell them, hey, there's nothing there, right? It's sand. There's no fish there, right? You want to be on you know, structure. So.
And I can tell you, you know, going on the boats a lot, if you do have a mix of recreational divers and some spearfishing, what they'll do is they'll allow the spearfishing guys to jump off the wreck when the dive master goes in.
Yeah.
And they can do their hunting, and then they kind of move off and go off into the sand, and then you don't see them. It allows the recreational guys to go down and enjoy the wreck without having. You know,
Artie brings up a good point. Know what you're shooting at, right?
Yeah.
You know, you have to know the laws. You have to know what's legal, and you have to judge size underwater, right? So it can be challenging.
Yeah. And just a shameless plug. May is spearfishing month, so maybe we'll have a topic about spearfishing that you'll like to tune in for.
Just leave the fish alone. Fish are fine. It's not food.
All right, so take a wreck diver course with 4C. What is that going to entail?
First of all, we're not going to use split fins, so you know, we'll fix that part. No, just kidding. there's a lot of stuff that you can learn about taking a wreck course. Now, take it from somebody that actually dives wrecks, right? There's a lot of techniques that go over, how to safely enter a wreck. There's emergency procedures on what to do. Because in a wreck, you're not going to have the flow through of water through it. So you get silt that builds up in the wreck. And that silt could be, literally 6, 8, 10 inches deep. And, wrong techniques will actually make that silt go up into the water column, and you can get silted out, right? So we go over procedures on how to, get out of stuff like that. We go over entry procedures. We go over mapping procedures. We go over a lot of stuff. So it's not as easy as just dropping down and going on the wreck. You can do that, but if you learn from somebody that knows how to do it, use that person as a mentor, right? When I learned to dive wrecks, I learned from people that had done it before me. So,
and I know that there's the wreck diver specialty, but what are some of the technical like courses? Like, say I'm already got the wreck diver cert, what are some of the ones that I could do beyond that?
So there's a recreational wreck diver. It's basically light entry. It goes over max entry of depth plus entry, not to exceed 130 feet, right? You have to stay in the light zone. It's more of a recreational diver version. Then they have advanced rec. Advanced rec goes into, exceeding the 130, goes into decompression. It really goes into, a lot of the emergency what if, right? So it's really helpful. There's a few of us that teach advanced rec. So, that's the one that if you really want to get into it, that will really, it's a really cool thing to do. Okay.
And is there any other specialties that maybe might help with a rec specialty?
Well, if you really want to see, a lot of cool stuff, you really want to take, at a minimum advanced nitrox and deco, right? And advanced nitrox and deco are entry-level technical. People can be turned off by technical, but when I dive a rebreather, it's technical. But some of the best dives I've ever done on a rebreather have been, a 3-4 hour drift along the reef line. And it's funny because you talked about the oldest wreck, and we know that's not the oldest wreck because I found Cannon before, so I know there's stuff out there. Right?
Wow!
So there's a lot of cool stuff to see.
Yeah. Okay, so we wanted to share with you some of James's favorite wrecks.
This is called a hell diver, right? This is off Jupiter. It's about 100 and about 190 feet of water. It was I don't know, for the older guys, right? There was a show called Black Sheep Squadron, right? It was during World War II, and all the planes had articulated wings where the wings would fold up. This was one of those types of planes. So I don't know if you can see that diver, that's me, right? And if you follow up to the wing, the bomber is upside down, right? So it's wheels up. And you can see there's there's open squares on the right side, and then there's open squares on the left side, but one of the squares is filled. That actually is an experimental fuel tank, right? So they were experimenting with the fuel tank that it would be a self-sealing fuel tank if the plane got hit by gunfire. So we're looking at history right there, right? And that's actually off of Palm Beach up in Jupiter. We went to the Navy and we said, hey, we found this wreck. I didn't find it, but this wreck has been found. And the Navy said, well, can you use a tail number or something? The tail's missing. Can you give us a make plate? Well, we can't get into the cockpit. They said, well, we're not sure which one it is. I think they said there's 5 of them out there. So I was like, 5, right? So I got some searching to do, right? Because there's 4 more out there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really cool wreck. But that's in 190. That's a little more technical for recreation. This is a funny wreck that hopefully we don't see every day. This was actually Ferrari, right? So apparently God hates Ferraris. the driver of the Ferrari said God told him to drive it off the pier into the water. So,
Oh.
Yeah, so God hates Ferraris, apparently. But this was a wreck that was in Palm Beach, and we got tasked with recovery. So we actually recovered this wreck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wreck didn't. Right? It was a car wreck and a shipwreck.
You're
at the
such
same
a wreck.
Time. Yeah, I am a wreck. I know. So, but pretty cool. That was off Palm Beach, so you don't see that every day.
And so just really quick, so James, tell everybody why would you be recovering this car? What do you do for a living?
So I do a lot of stuff for a living, right? I won't go into that, but one of the things my company does is we recover vehicles, evidence, bodies, stuff like that. But this car actually, even in salt water, was worth $70,000, right? So the parts on it were very desirable to get. So the insurance company told us, hey, recover this car, with as little damage as possible. The funny thing is they put a new computer in that and they changed the battery and that thing started up.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's probably for sale in Miami somewhere.
Yeah.
Slight water damage.
Okay. Do you have the VIN number so we can?
I do have the VIN number, actually. Yeah. So don't buy a blue Ferrari.
Okay, and this photo. This is a travel destination.
Right. So this was another trip that I took. This was actually my birthday. Anybody know what that is a picture of? Anybody take a guess? Let's see. Anybody tiring? Yeah. This is actually in Truck Lagoon. So this is inside the I-169. It was a submarine that was at Pearl Harbor. It was at Midway. It was in the Aleutian Island campaign, and it was in Truck Lagoon when he went and took Truck Lagoon out. So for those of you that don't know, Truck Lagoon is the Japanese equivalent of Pearl Harbor, but like times 10, right? There's literally hundreds of wrecks in this lagoon, and even diving. So, we were with Odyssey Divers, which is out in Truck. Truck is actually halfway between, I'd say, Hawaii and, Australia, Papua New Guinea, somewhere around there. So it's South Pacific. So that's actually inside the thing. So the history of that is just, it's amazing to be able to go in there and just be able to be in that historic moment, right? So we went, I told the captain, hey, it's my birthday. This is what I want to dive. He says, well, it's a little deeper than we usually do. This was about 140. And he says, people aren't going to want to see it. We don't like to go inside. And I said, I'm going inside. So he knew I was, and I had the ability to go inside. But that's pretty cool. But what was really cool is a lot of the gauges, and there were some plaques in there. And guess what language they were in? They weren't in Japanese, but they were in another language. Take a guess. Who was aligned with the Japanese in World War II? Germany.
Yeah.
Right. So there are actually German plaques and German gauges in there. So it's pretty cool to see the history of that stuff, right? Actually, I'm going out to do, you know what a B-29 is?
Is it a plane?
It's a plane, right? There's more planes in the ocean than submarines in the sky. You know that?
Did you guys know that?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
The B-29 is actually in Lake Mead, right?
Okay.
And it's another World War II aircraft, right? It's really cool to be able to go and put your hand on these pieces of history, and it's just amazing. So we're gonna go do that soon. So.
Okay. Well, if you guys are paying attention to our Rec Month, you'll go to our event page, and we have a guest presenter, Jim Belay. He's going to be talking about the wrecks of the Great Lakes, so that should be a very interesting topic. So if you are interested in more about the wrecks of the South Florida area, well, last year we had Lance Bark from here in South Florida doing a presentation on the different wrecks that we have here. And if you go to this page on our website, it's when you go to the homepage, just click on it and it says get here. And it's all about exploring South Florida wrecks. And right there, that presentation, click on that, watch that. It'll give you a lot more information about the wrecks here in Florida. Also, we have some other really cool tidbits on here. We've got technical wreck diving with John Chatterton and Alec Hutchinson. They gave a presentation last year, so that video is there if you want to watch it, if you never saw it. And like I said earlier, if you spend $100 online and you want to get that cool new wreck diver t-shirt that we have for you, go ahead and go to www.force-e.com, go shopping, find the gear to get you on a wreck. There's just some examples right there. So it's a really cool landing page. All right, so I believe it's time to do our random name picker to see who wins the SDI Wreck Diver e-learning code.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, SDI, for providing that.
Yes, we appreciate they gave that to us to give out tonight. And so I'm going to go ahead. I gave everybody a chance to register online.
Well, one person said he couldn't.
Yeah, Mike Green, I'm sorry. If you didn't register before 6:45, then the registration closed on you. I'm sorry. So anyways, we did get everyone's names here, and let's go ahead. There's everyone's names. Let's go ahead and do random name picker. And the winner is Beth Haven. If you're listening, give us a thumbs up. Give us an emoji that you're excited. So Beth, you are on your way to getting the SDI Rec e-learning code, which you can use to take with a class here at 4C. So make sure that when you get the email from us, we're going to ask you for some information so that turned on. Congratulations, Beth. Okay, so going back there, and here we are. Okay, so if anybody has any other questions for James, go ahead and type that in the comments section. I had a question for you, James.
Yeah.
We talked about going inside the wrecks. You know, there's different ways to penetrate wrecks, and I know that there's different techniques until you get the training for it. But as a recreational diver, someone who doesn't have that training, you know, what should they look for? Like, I know that there's lots of cutouts that they can make on wrecks, but if you're like thinking, okay, if I feel safe swimming through this, like, what should be going through the mindset of somebody?
Just make sure, if you're a recreational diver, make sure you have a point of light that you could see and that you could get to, right? If it's dark, you probably shouldn't be in there, right? If you have to squeeze, you probably shouldn't be in there, right? Without proper training.
If you have to take off equipment to get through,
yeah,
please don't do that.
You probably shouldn't be. Like the I-169, you know, we usually go in a wreck a specific way. And this was one way in, one way out. Very silty if you did it wrong, right? And there's probably 4 or 5 people that die in there every year. So without the proper technique and training, you can get in trouble, right? So make sure that you have, you know, clear line of sight of, you know, your exit, planned exit, stuff like that. You know, when you're going through, you know, count doorways, count everything, right? Every, you know, 10 or 15 feet, turn around, take a mental snapshot of what you're looking. This way, when you turn around, you know what you're looking for your exit, right? There's a lot of techniques for that. Take a class, you'll really learn a lot from it. Yep.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that's all we have for tonight, and we thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, James, for an excellent presentation.
You're welcome.
One of our experts here on wreck diving. And again, take a class or come in and talk to us, and we can give you more information about diving the wrecks here in South Florida.
Absolutely.
All
and
right.
truck and bikini.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Bye.